One of our pseudo trolls, Steve, points out that in a video that I made a short while ago, I was quoting Boris Johnson and saying that we must support, that Boris had said we must support the Kremlin. Of course, Boris wouldn't have said that. Boris would have said we must support Ukraine. And Steve says, you are correct, Tim. We must support the Kremlin. A Freudian slip. Well, no, a Freudian slip would be a deep subconscious slip, so that I'm actually saying something which is true, and this is absolutely not true. I do think we should support Russia, and the heart of Russia is something that we should support and look after and be mindful of. But Putin's Kremlin should be condemned and sidestepped. The building, of course, of the Kremlin is one of the great beautiful buildings of the world, designed, of course, not by a Russian, but by an Italian, who I believe had his eyes gouged out so that he would never again create anything quite so majestic and powerful. So even the building of the Kremlin itself is admired in blood. But yes, not a Freudian slip, an error of reading on a long day when I simply cannot shift my chest infection. And I've done slightly too much teaching, perhaps, as well today, to, I should really get to bed. But, I spoke to somebody today who was saying that they had been out of action for 5 weeks because of a chest infection, and then described exactly the same symptoms that I have, and a sort of general feeling of weakness. And though I've tried the COVID test a couple of times, there is no sign that I have COVID. I think it's just simply a lack of resilience to the ordinary flu bug, despite having a flu injection. And I think it's a combination of 2 or 3 different chest infections which have hit one on top of the other. And it is utterly debilitating. And I don't think I've had any choice but to continue. I cannot not teach, and I cannot not have performed on stage. There simply wasn't the option of stopping. It would have been nice, it would have been better, had I been able to access antibiotics and some sort of medical treatment, but that is part of the failure that our NHS is going through at the moment, and it's interesting to be there on the edge of that failure and to be able to say, yes, I know from personal experience that is the problem. The problem is bureaucratic. The problem is not medical. The problem is bureaucratic, and the problem is a movement towards a 9-to-5 surgery system, when actually we are in a position where so much can be done online, and it isn't. Exactly like teaching, we are looking at the health service as something that is done face-to-face, and then it's done online as well. So instead of halving the work we do, we are doubling the work we do for no particular reason, simply because we don't trust. We don't trust ourselves to a digital world. We should, because when it comes down to it, we probably can't find the paperwork anyway. We should trust the digital system, because so much of our life depends on the digital system, and we simply cannot. It doesn't matter whether we have the paperwork or not. It's of no consequence at all. And so much of our life now, where we really want paperwork, the paperwork is being avoided. If you want to discuss an error in your bank or with your telephone company, you can't do it. Even with an email, you have to ring up, because a record is not something businesses want you to keep. They may want to keep it. You are not expected to. And partly, I suppose, they're responding to the fact that emails allow one to proliferate complaints, probably with good reason, because systems are not working. But no business wants to be dealing constantly with complaints. I think we need to shift the way we work. I think if we had a sense that there was a little bit more trust, that there was a little bit more responsibility taken by businesses and by those in public service, then maybe there would be less of this nitpicking, complaining, and there would be slightly more community. We need to build communities rather than increase bureaucracy.